Okay, let's talk about R value and how to either make predictions or how to explain it. So whenever I think about R value, remember what R value is. R value, which is also known as the correlation coefficient. So the correlation is the relationship between the two things you're studying. So in this case, it would be daily temperature and the number of coffees. In this case, it would be the distance traveled and the number of hours it took you to get that far. So the correlation coefficient is a question of how strong are the two things that you're studying. So we talked about like if you eat pizza and you study, those two things are probably unrelated. So there's a weak relationship, like eating pizza has nothing to do with studying. So sometimes we think that things are going to be related and they turn out to not be, right? The number of rubber bands that you put around a pumpkin and how wide that pumpkin is. Maybe that's not related. Maybe we need to measure the thickness of the pumpkin. But again, those two things are related, but not the wideness of that pumpkin. So we study things all the time in real life. We're trying to make predictions. So correlations are how strongly those two things are related. I'm pretty sure there's a pretty strong relationship between how much you study and your score on the test. Those are probably two things that are super related. So I'm going to call that a super strong relationship. And now let's think about strong relationships on a scale, right? So the stronger you are, the bigger the R number is going to be. So think about a scale of 0 to 100. Your R value is going to be somewhere in between there, except it's going to be in a decimal form. So really that 100 is going to be a 1, but you can think about it as 1 and 100, okay? So if you are close to 0, you're saying there's a weak relationship. So think about two things that are totally unrelated. How many siblings you have and I don't know. I have no idea. Pick something, Grace. How many pairs of jeans you own. Okay. I don't know why I picked that. I don't think there's any relationship between how many siblings you have and how many pairs of jeans you own. So my prediction is that R value, if I asked everybody on the planet how many pairs of jeans they owned and how many siblings they had, that data would be like all over the place. They would just have like no relationship whatsoever. So the weaker the relationship, the closer you are to 0. The stronger relationship, like how long you study and your test score, is going to be closer to 100. Now, an R value of 100 would look like this. If there's an R value of 100, you are literally telling me 100% of the dots fall exactly on the line. An R value of 99 might look something like this. Not all 100% of the dots are on that line, but the rest of them are pretty darn close to that line. So whenever you're asking me to make predictions, the first thing I basically decide is whether this is part of the question or not. I ask myself, what type of relationship do I have? So if I look at this picture, I say, okay, it looks to me like the data is pretty scattered. That line is not near a whole bunch of, sorry, my pencil slipped, not near a whole bunch of those points. So I'm going to say that that's weak for sure. I don't think the dots look strong. So I'm going to eliminate all the strong ones. Now it's weak negative. The line is facing down. It's very clear that that line was put there for a reason. So this is a weak negative. So right off the bat, if I'm thinking it's a weak correlation, again, I have to pick a number between 0 and 100, and then I'm placing that decimal in there. So numbers that are less than 50 are going to be weak. So if you're lower than 50, you've got a weak relationship. So I don't know, does this look like confetti thrown on the floor? Because then you're close to 0. If it's like a little close together, it's probably somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to guess 0.4, 0.40, 44, 47, 48, 49, 50. Don't go higher than 50. 50 is starting to get a little stronger. Not super strong. That's going to be above a 70. Okay? So ask yourself, do you have a weak or strong relationship? If it's weak, pick a number less than 50. If it's strong, you're picking a number greater than 70. All right. And then since it's a negative line, we're just going to throw a minus sign in there. So again, pick a number between 0 and 100. What you're communicating to someone is the stronger the number, the closer you are to 100, the more closely these dots are getting closer to that line. So if I find another picture on here somewhere, like, ta-da, look at that line. It's really close to a lot of those dots. So right off the bat, I'm thinking, okay, this is a strong relationship. Now, if I'm thinking about a strong relationship, is it super strong or is it sort of strong? It looks pretty strong to me. Like, look how close those dots are to that line. Like, they're pretty close. So a super strong relationship is going to be anything bigger than 70. And I'm going to think it's like, I don't know, it's pretty close. So I'm going to go with even like 95. Okay. But again, we're thinking about this in terms of decimals. So 0.95. And then I just check if the line's facing upward, it's going to be a positive 0.95. If the picture were like this, but the dots were like this, then I might say that's negative 0.95. Same strength, it's just facing a different direction. So again, what you're saying when you are writing down the number is you're telling someone how strong that relationship is. Closer to 100 means it's super, super, super strong. 90, 95, 98. The further you get from 90, 88, 82, 81, 75, whatever, up to 70 is still pretty strong, but getting weaker. Anything less than 50, 40, 30, 25, 21, all the way back to 0. Oh, and by the way, the actual R value was 0.97. And 0.97 is really darn close to 100 or 1, which would be super, super strong. So what you're telling me is that there's a really, really, really strong relationship between these two things, whatever those two things happen to be. And I don't know what they are. They're labeled somewhere up there. But you're just telling me that they're super related. They're related, but they don't cause each other because we can't say that in this class. Okay, hope that helps.